Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Stadium Showdown, your in-depth look at the future home of the Cleveland Browns. I'm Jeff Slauson. This week we're looking ahead. What could the waterfront look like without a Cleveland Browns stadium? That's been a question that we've been asking the city basically for the last year, because for them, any future development has always involved some sort of a stadium element and then whatever surrounds it. And it's a lot of acres. There's basically 50 acres of space to work with in the stadium and the surrounding area. And now it seems like for the first time, the city of Cleveland is addressing a possible future without the Browns along Lake Erie. 19's Dan DeRose breaks that down.
What's interesting is this week the city of Cleveland put out what's called an RFQ, a request for qualifications of development. What they're asking is for development companies all over the country, all over the world, to come up with ideas for 50 acres of property on the lakefront. Now, this has been a project of Mayor Justin Bibb since he took office. This is one of his top priorities. He wants to be known as the mayor that finally developed the lakefront. Now, what's interesting about this project is 2 years ago, when the city had what they called their master plan with some buildings, the walkway, the land bridge. The land bridge is still going to go in. The city has the money for that. But at the time they put this out, they were still negotiating with the Browns on something downtown. So they kind of just developed around it. Well, the city seems very resigned to the fact that that's just not going to happen. In this RFQ that they're putting out to developers, in the project, it says the city's current assumption is that the stadium will be demolished in 2029 if the Browns move to Brook Park, Ohio. However, developers are also welcome to propose a reuse of the existing stadium. Now, whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see. But again, this is something that Mayor Bibb wants to see come to fruition. The land bridge, that money is already secured from the state and the federal government. That will go in. But that leaves you 22 acres where the stadium is and 37 acres around the stadium to develop.
When I was running for mayor nearly 4 years ago, one of the biggest complaints I heard from residents, not only about public safety and housing and quality of life issues, but they would say, you know, Justin Bibb, what you gonna do about our lakefront? Because I'm tired of going to Chicago, I'm tired of going to Seattle, I'm tired of going to San Diego, New York, and they figured it out. Can't we figure it out?
Why should I believe that this is the time that this is going to actually happen?
Well, number one, we put our money where our mouth is. From the advocacy that we've done in Washington, D.C. and in Columbus to secure nearly $150 million of state and federal funding, to the fact that we have spun out a nonprofit that works outside of City Hall to move at the speed of business and to get shovels in the ground as quickly as possible, to the fact that we're going to have shovels in the ground in 2027 to kick off the first phase.
But yes, the city is still moving forward with its lawsuit at the state level, at the county court state level, that is suing the Browns for what they're calling injuries, or what a judge has actually called injuries, that by the Browns already talking to Brook Park, buying the land, that they have injured the downtown. You can really see where that lawsuit could come up with potential money to get this project a little bit further off the ground. But again, it's going to be a wait and see. Dan DeRose, 19 News.
Now, again, we aren't expecting to see some of those renderings for quite some time, but still massive progress here, trying to see potentially what the waterfront could look like if the Browns end up moving to Brook Park, which it does seem like everything is going that way. Now, speaking of the Browns, hearing for them that the city of Cleveland is preparing for the stadium to potentially be moved and potentially be demolished, they actually want to help in that. I reached out to the Cleveland Browns for a statement on what they say would be a joint venture between them and the city to demo the stadium. So let's read that part to you now. Again, this is a statement from the Cleveland Browns. They say, and I quote, "We have long expressed our support for a reimagined Cleveland lakefront well before concluding that an enclosed stadium in Brook Park is the best long-term stadium solution for our fans and all of Northeast Ohio. Mayor Bibb knows this, as we have had direct discussions with him and his administration on numerous occasions regarding our willingness to assist with the demolition of the current stadium after our lease expires in early 2029. The mayor informed us 2 months ago that he wanted to wait until after June 30th for the state's decision on supporting an unprecedented $3 billion economic development project in Brook Park before he further responded to our desire to work together to help transform the lakefront. The Browns go on to say, "We have always been willing to continue to invest in Cleveland and our region, but it requires collaboration from all parties to arrive at the optimal solution. We remain ready to have those conversations with the mayor when he's willing, and we are hopeful that begins soon." Now, the Browns have not heard back from Mayor Bibb just yet on whether or not they would accept the Browns' help on demolishing the old stadium. But the next question naturally is, how much potentially could that demo be? And what could replace it? I looked into both current and previous stadiums across the entire United States to find out the types of constructions that take place on previous stadium sites. That story after the break. Welcome back. So how much would it actually cost for a demolition of the current stadium? And then, of course, what could replace it? I looked at a wide range of things to try and come up with an answer. Let's start with how much it potentially would be to demolish the stadium. The only data that we can actually go off of to see how much it would be to demolish the stadium is to look at how much it cost to previously demolish the Browns stadium when the team moved in the mid-90s. Now, according to public records, in 1996, the estimated cost was $2.9 million to demolish the old stadium. Adjusted for inflation, that'd be a little bit more than $6 million today. So what could they do with that former site? Now, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison, but what we did is we looked at what happened to old stadiums across different areas in the United States. Want to point to a couple here. First, the Memphis men's basketball team used to play in an arena that was purchased and transformed into the Great American Pyramid. Obviously not saying that's what would happen in Cleveland, but that's the type of thing that would change as a result of the team moving out. In Houston, when the Houston Rockets moved out of the old Rockets arena, preacher Joel Osteen purchased it for his new megachurch. Not sports related, but a massive venue with a massive need for tens of thousands of people. In San Francisco, Candlestick Park was demolished in the mid-2010s. That was replaced with Levi Stadium. Since then, it has been incredibly hard for the former site to find a permanent tenant. And at least according to the records that I could find, as of 2019, they are still looking to see if office space would be the desired location. Again, we are now more than a decade since that stadium was there. In many cases, teams will simply demolish their old stadium and move to a stadium basically next door. The New York Jets and the New York Giants moved basically across the parking lot, demolished the old stadium, and made it into another parking lot. The Buffalo Bills, whose new stadium will open in 2026, they moved across the street in Orchard Park, New York. The old site, you guessed it, going to be demolished and replaced with a parking lot. But what about cities that lost NFL teams and had stadiums there? The San Diego Chargers and the St. Louis Rams both ended up moving. The Chargers to Los Angeles, the Rams also to Los Angeles. The old Charger Stadium was demolished in the late 2010s and replaced with a much smaller stadium, basically for any event that has a lower capacity than an NFL game would. As for the former St. Louis Rams site, that dome stays intact today. It's basically used as a large convention center with lower-level professional football games also being played there. So a variety of options for the city of Cleveland, and they've been very clear. They're open to hearing all of it, whether or not the stadium should stay, whether or not the Browns are there. Yeah, so I guess it's yet to be seen exactly what we could actually have on that site. I'm going to guess that a giant Bass Pro Shop isn't one of the options, but hey, you never know. Now, one thing I do want to get to right now is a quick clarification that I actually learned of this week on that Browns funding from the state. You've seen this multiple times. Going to pull this up for you right here. This is what we've all known about that state funding. Comes from the Department of Unclaimed Funds. $600 million total is coming from that to the Browns. It's basically creating its own fund in general to allow for different sports teams, arts, education, things like that. They could take funding from this to build new places. That was from a total of $1.7 billion. Those funds were unclaimed for 10 plus years. Now, the initial belief that we had was that the funds from the Brown Stadium would go directly back into the Department of Unclaimed Funds, and then if you wanted to get your funds from there, let's say that you hypothetically couldn't because they were taken by the Browns, you could at a different point. That's not the case. I'm going to show you this now. This is the difference. The tax revenue from the site is still going to the state, but it's not going back into the Department of Unclaimed Funds. It's going into the general fund. So that money that is being taken out not only for the Brown Stadium, but think about the Cincinnati Bengals, think about any other professional sports team, it's not being replaced one-to-one. It is going into the general fund for the state, not to the unclaimed funds. So that means that this does not repay that Department of Unclaimed Funds. The $1.7 billion is just going away from that point. So the suggestion here, claim it now or not at all. If you want to claim the funds, do it right now. If you don't want to claim the funds and you don't worry about it, you might not have an option in the future to actually get this done. Now, the legal situation surrounding the Browns versus the city of Cleveland is still very much so active despite the Modell Law's changes. I'm going to be explaining exactly where we are in that lawsuit and why both are still going at it in legal filings. Plus, if you'd like to watch any of our previous coverage of the Stadium Showdown, go ahead, scan the QR code on your screen right now. We will have many more episodes to come, and of course, our coverage will be as thorough as it has been because this topic is ever changing. All right, we'll have much more coming up after a short break. Welcome back. We have touched on the fact that the Modell Law changed in the new budget. In fact, those changes potentially could mean that any lawsuits regarding the Modell Law wouldn't be in place, right? Well, not necessarily. This week we saw action from both the city and from the Browns themselves. The Browns, earlier on in the week, arguing that basically the city needs to make an argument. I'm going to just explain to you what I'm talking about here. So basically what the Browns are saying is that the city of Cleveland has to make an argument. They need to prove that the Modell Law isn't being followed, which under the new iteration of it would be, or they got to prove that the lease is being broken. If there's no argument, that case needs to be dropped. Now again, the Modell law previously was if you want to move the team anywhere, you have to either come to an agreement with the city you're in or offer the chance for somebody to purchase it to keep the team in that place. That was changed to if you want to move the team outside of Ohio, you have to do those things. Very clear distinction. The thing is, these lawsuits were filed under the previous iteration of the Modell law. So kind of a gray area here. And the courts have already said that these lawsuits can continue. It's not in the Browns' best interest that these lawsuits continue. They really are on a tight clock here. They're currently trying to figure out how to zone things in Brook Park to have construction begin by 2026. And if legally they're still tied up with the city of Cleveland, obviously that's not a good thing. And that is something that the city of Cleveland acknowledged in their response in the courts on Thursday. Here's the quote that I really think points to everything here. The city of Cleveland, again in that response, saying, and I quote, "The Browns have unequivocally announced that it is their intention to leave downtown, and they are moving forward with plans to depart from Cleveland to Brook Park. The issue of the Browns leaving the city is no longer hypothetical." So their point being, they're going to move. So whether or not they're going to break the Modell law isn't a choice here. It's just happening. So that's why this lawsuit needs to see its full day in court. That is why, at least according to the city of Cleveland, the Browns have no argument to dismiss it. A lot of he said at this moment. Obviously, we're going to try and see if this is going to play out fully in court or if they could come to an agreement. But regardless, right now, both sides trying to make the argument that either it should stay or it should go, and all of it hinging on the Modell law, again, a law that was recently changed in the new budget. And if you have any questions for us here at 19 News regarding the Stadium Showdown, go ahead, scan the QR code on your screen right now. Love to hear from you all at home. Over the next couple of weeks, we're expecting a resolution, at least from Brook Park, as to how the zoning can be handled to allow for the new stadium. Also, of course, hoping for some updates on that lawsuit. So if you want to have any questions related to that, again, scan the QR code on your screen right now. And that is it from our latest episode of the Stadium Showdown. Thank you so much for watching. You want to see any of our previous coverage, head to our website at cleveland19.com. We will have much, much more on the latest in the future home of the Cleveland Browns. For now, I'm Jeff Slauson with 19 News. Have a great day. Thanks so much for watching.